Hi everyone, it's Tarrant.
And Stella here from Meeple University on the Dice Tower. Thanks for joining us.
Today we'll be teaching you how to play Hamlet, game designed by David Kirkhope and published by Mighty Boards. We are using a prototype copy here of the game, and so the rules and components are not final.
Let's get to it.
Hamlet is a 1 to 4 player tile placement game in which players will try to build up a small hamlet into a bustling village. Players will work side by side to construct buildings and paths for the greater good of the hamlet, while working against each other to best utilise those buildings for their own money and points. The game ends after construction of the church is complete and the player with the most points wins. To set up, find these 6 starting building tiles: the church, market, town hall, farm, quarry and woodcutter. For the top 3, flip it over to the side matching your player count. There are 5 roads leaving the church tile, and you will connect one of the roads on each of the other 5 buildings to one of the church roads. Place 2 wheat on the farm, 2 wood on the woodcutter, and 2 stone on the quarry. Each player places 1 villager meeple standing upright and 1 donkey on the church. These will be donkey meeples, not discs, in the final game. To set up the market, separate the market tiles with a 1 resource cost versus a 2 resource cost. Randomly choose a number of each corresponding to your player count. Shuffle them into a single stack, and lay out 3 face up, returning the others to the box. Separate all remaining building tiles by the icon showing in the back, and then all the starting tiles showing the bag are placed into the building bag. The others are set to the side for now. On the main scoring board, place each player's score on 0, and then draw 3 building tiles from the bag, placing them left to right on these spaces. Each player takes the remaining pieces in player colour: 3 spare villagers, 5 spare donkeys, 8 refined resources, 5 spare player markers, 5 paths, and some flag tokens. Here again, these pieces may look different in the final version of the game. Choose a first player who takes 2 gold, second player takes 3 gold, and any other players take 4 gold. Lay out all of the award and milestone tiles, and you're now ready to play. In Hamlet, players will be working side by side to build up a common hamlet with buildings and paths available to all players. However, the actions the players will take in this shared hamlet will earn them gold and victory points, and players need to be tactical about how they take their actions to earn as much of these personal rewards from the shared hamlet as they can. There are 4 types of building in the game. There are producers, and these produce the game's basic building resources: wood, wheat, and stone. The basic resources are cubes, and they fit on these blue squares. There are refineries, recognisable by the blue octagon, and these produce the game's 4 refined resources: milk, lumber, bricks, and flour. These buildings consume basic resources from producers and produce refined resources in their place. There are landmarks, recognisable by the flag. These will score victory points based on their placement in the hamlet. And there are 3 special buildings: the church, market and town hall, all placed during setup, and these have a variety of specific effects. Producers, refineries and special buildings, as well as the resources on them, can be freely used by any player in the game, regardless of who constructed the building. Landmarks, on the other hand, which are only used for end-of-game scoring, are claimed by the player who builds it, and will score points only for that player. So, understanding this context, let's have a look at how to play the game. Hamlet is played in turns, starting with the first player and going clockwise around the table. On your turn, you will take actions with your workers, and your workers include your villager meeples and your donkeys. At the start of the game, you'll have only 1 of each. But as the game goes on, you'll get access to more. At the start of your turn, you'll stand up all of your villagers. Then you may take a single action with each of your villagers and a single donkey action, which incorporates moving any or all of your donkeys. Each action must be completed in full before going to the next action. When taking your donkey action, you may move any or all of your donkeys up to one space along roads or built paths belonging to any player. For all purposes in the game, each individual tile is considered a single space, regardless of its size. So here, for example, with a donkey action, the blue player could move this donkey across yellow's path to here, and this donkey across the printed road to here. Donkeys have no other action other than to move, but they support the villagers when building. To take a villager action, first move the villager meeple to the location where the action is taking place, and this can be anywhere in the hamlet as long as there is a connected road or pathway to get there. On this map, for example, every tile except for the stonemason is accessible by tracing paths from the church or going over the player-placed paths. Choose the location, lay the meeple down to indicate that you've taken the action with it, and then perform one of three options: constructing a building, constructing a path, or activating the building. To construct a building, you must be holding the building tile that you wish to build in your hand. The tiles above the scoreboard can't be built, and we'll talk about how you get those into your hand a little bit later. Now choose an empty location, not overlapping any other tiles, where you can place this new building. You'll notice from these small notches which break up the art of the tiles that the perimeter of a tile is broken into segments. The sides of this partial hexagon, for example, are 1 segment long each, whereas this diamond is 2 segments long. When placing a tile, at least one segment of the new tile must line up with a segment of the tile where the villager taking the action is located. If a segment contains a road, then it can only be placed adjacent to another segment containing a road, but otherwise there are no restrictions. So this tile could be placed here, 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 or a variety of other placements, but could not be placed here, here, or here because of the restriction on roads. Otherwise, any placement is legal. Next, you need to consume resources equal to the cost of the building, and this will be the red icons next to the hammer. Early in the game, this will just be the basic building resources, and here it's 2 stone and 1 wood. These resources are consumed from the board, and they must be available to the specific villager meeple that is consuming them. This means they must be on that villager's tile, on a tile adjacent to that villager, or on a tile which can be connected to that villager's tile through only other tiles containing that player's donkeys. It's important to note that while villagers and donkeys need roads or paths to move, resources do not. So this stone here can be consumed by this villager. Once all of the resources are accounted for, then remove them from the board. If the resources are not present on the board, you do also have the option to purchase them from the market. For the basic building resources, this costs 3 coins in a 2-player game, or 2 coins in a 3 or 4-player game. Market resources still need to be available by the same placement rules, meaning same space, adjacent, or through a chain of donkeys to where the villager is taking the action. Here, this villager could consume this stone and then pay 6 to the market to finish this construction. The builder now receives the benefits shown in green next to the hammer icon. This will always include a number of victory points, which are added to the score immediately. If the building is a refinery, which remember you can identify by the octagonal resource icon, then the reward will include a milestone, and this is gained only by the first player to construct a refinery that produces that resource. This will give you a benefit when using that type of refinery. Additionally, when you take a milestone, place the matching stack of building tiles into the building bag. This will include tiles which require that resource to be built, or some that just need to be layered into the game. If the building you constructed was a landmark, again indicated by the flag, place one of your flag tokens onto it. This signifies that you constructed the building and you're the only one who can score the endgame objective on it. When buildings are constructed, frequently they will not be connected to the church by any roads or paths. To rectify this, players must construct those paths. A path can be built through a segment containing matching terrain, so to forest or to mountain. A non-matching segment like this cannot be built through. To build a path, move your villager to the location where the path will begin, lay it down, and then place your path along the track. A path between two mountains is a bridge and costs 2 wood. A path through the forest is a cobblestone path and it costs 2 stone. Consumed resources must be available to the villager taking the action by the same rules described for buildings. The first player to build either type of path during the game will get the planner milestone, worth victory points at the end of the game. Once a path has been placed, regardless of who placed it, any building or buildings on the other side of that path can now be accessed by villagers or donkeys of any player. There is, however, one important restriction, and that is that you can never construct a path where the destination is already connected to the church by existing roads and paths. This construction here is not allowed. The final type of action is to activate a building, and we'll go through how to activate each of the different types of buildings. First, there are the producers. Lay down the meeple and then fill up all of the slots on that producer. So here you would fill all 3 of these with wood. Then gain the reward shown in green. So here, 2 coins. Likewise, activating the quarry would now only add 1 stone to fill it up, but again would be worth 2 coins. You must add at least 1 resource to take the action, so this, to place nothing for 2 coins, would not be legal. In this way, you're gaining resources for everyone to use, but you're getting a reward for doing so. When you activate a refinery, you will consume raw resources, as shown here in red, to produce refined resources. Here it would mean consuming 1 wheat, which must be accessible in the same way as building, or can be purchased from the market if necessary, and then take one of your coloured octagon pieces that matches the resource in question, placing it on the space. This goes on the unupgraded white side unless you have the matching milestone giving you high quality goods, in which case you flip it over to the upgraded black or gold side. If the refinery in question has space for 2 resources, then you can refine both of them in the same action, as long as you have access to enough raw resources and have enough of the corresponding resource token left in your supply. You have 2 for each resource, and so this player would not be able to refine any more milk at a different building right now. Refining these goods does not give you any immediate benefit. There is a benefit printed on the tile, but this is gained only when this resource is consumed, either by you or by another player. For example, if yellow later came here and constructed this building by consuming 2 wood and a milk, at this point the blue player would gain 1 coin and 1 victory point. This token would be returned to blue's supply, ready to be refined again. When high quality goods are consumed, then the benefit is doubled to 2 coins and 2 points. Next, we'll talk about the church and the market, which are both places that players can go to fulfill orders for points and coins. When you visit the church, choose one of the 4 or 5 orders shown here, and then either consume the resources or pay the coins from your personal supply. As usual, the resources need to be available. If they're refined resources, then the players who refine them gain the bonuses, and you can supplement from the market. Then mark the order with one of your player markers and gain the points shown next to it. No other player may complete this for the rest of the game. At the market, you can fulfill the order printed on one of the market's cell tiles in the same way. Consume the required resources, and then take the tile, gaining the bonuses printed on it and then keeping the tile in front of you, as it may influence endgame scoring. Then replenish from the top of the deck if possible. You cannot buy from the market to supply to the market. The final building is the town hall, and this is where you go to get building blueprints and hire new workers. As long as you have fewer than 3 building tiles in your hand, you can purchase 1 tile from the market to build later. The left one is free, the middle one costs 1 coin placed on the left one, and the right one costs 2 coins placed on the others. You'll always slide to the left and then replenish from the bag. And if you take a tile with coins, then you keep those coins for your supply. You may then spend coins to purchase as many new workers as you can afford. A new donkey costs 3 gold in a 2-player game, or 4 gold otherwise, and your first, second or third extra villagers cost 5, 7 or 9 gold respectively. Pay all of the gold and then place any new workers into the church with any villagers lying down. They won't be used until your next turn. Finally, there are the landmarks, but these have no action on them which can be taken by a villager. These are all about the end game points. The end of the game is triggered when the church is complete and the hamlet becomes a village. Continue playing until all players have had the same number of turns, and then proceed to endgame scoring. First, give out the award tiles to the players with the most and second most church deliveries, the most market sales, and the most flag buildings. Next, players score points for all of their eligible flag buildings out on the board. To score, a building must have a connection to the church through roads or paths, or be a building which says no road is required. This warehouse building fits neither of those requirements, and so blue would score no points for this objective. Then score for paths. Each path scores 1 point for each building which can only be reached via that path. A building could score for multiple paths if you require multiple paths to get there from the church. For example, this path opens only to the large woodland and is worth 1 point. This path opens to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buildings and is a 5-point path, even though these 2 buildings also require this yellow path. The yellow path itself is worth 2 points. This path here scores 2 and this path scores 1. Each path owned by the player with the planner milestone also scores 1 point for that player. Leftover gold is cashed in for victory points at 3-1, and the player with the highest score wins. If tied, victory is shared. A final word on loops. As mentioned earlier, you're never allowed to construct a path so that it connects to a building which is already connected to the church, and in this way all of the paths and roads should be emanating outwards from the church. However, and this will be quite rare, but it is possible and legal to create a building which creates a loop. When this happens, take note of which building completed that loop. When the time comes, it will count as a connected building for the purposes of scoring flag buildings. But you will pretend that this connecting building is not there when you score for the points of paths. And that's how to play Hamlet.
Check out project page of Hamlet. We'll put the link in the description below so you can check it out. And if you find this video useful, please help us by hitting that like button and subscribe to the Dice Tower if you haven't already done so.
And if you have any questions, comments or feedback, please leave that in the comments section below.
Thanks for watching and see you next time.